a few broader comments. First, I would say that this is one example, or it is an example of two elements of where India and Niti are today. First, this is kind of an example of a second generation reform. It's not obvious, it doesn't necessarily get to the editorial columns of the newspapers, but as we've discussed, it is absolutely crucial. Second, and again, this is a point that is often made by commentators, it is a reform where the involvement of states is absolutely central. And under CEO's leadership at Niti Aayog, I think it's fair to say that we have been considerably expanding our engagement with states. CEO mentioned our recent Chief Secretary's conference. So I think we have a good platform with which to assist states if assistance is needed. But equally important is to produce, as it were, the facts and figures that provide the framework for this. The second point I would make is that, as you know, Honourable Prime Minister talks about his forecasts, the poor, the young, farmers and women. And there's been a lot of churn in the numbers connected with the labour force, participation rate, but we all know that so much of China's success in becoming the workshop of the world, the factory of the world, was around the mobilization of young women. And so, to the extent that that adding to the economic well-being and status of women workers, married or unmarried, in safe conditions, safe being a pun, of course, this contributes to that larger larger goal of Viksit Bharat. The third dimension, it's a small dimension, but I think is quite apart from the impact on the workers themselves, is the impact it has on road congestion. Dr. Saraswat has talked about these, as it were, fleets of buses. I happen to be in Bangalore at an automotive facility, and I asked them whether they had, site accommodation. They said that they actually sent buses around, but for 5,000 employees on congested, crowded roads. It's an automotive company, but you can imagine the congestion this creates on already stressed roads. So that's another kind of side effect. But I just wanted to make two perhaps more analytic points. We talk of factories, but I see no reason why this might not also be relevant for services establishments. We have seen, in a sense, what the Middle Eastern airports have done in creating, as it were, hubs in the middle of nowhere. So one could, with connectivity, we could envisage decongesting Bangalore, moving things out, not only to tier 2 and tier cities, but on the periphery of those cities, if housing was made available. And I think the report is very clear that what we're talking about is dormitory housing. We're not talking about, as it were, what is covered by PMJAY, etc. So it is for a very specific purpose, but a very important purpose. My last point would be that this is not the only model. You all know that Singapore has a substantial industrial manufacturing sector. When Hong Kong was was an important textile hub and electronics hub, they moved on from that. They had the concept of flatted factories, which is basically factories in high rises. So simply to say that as our growth rate picks up, as making things and services becomes important in this. The notion of the welfare of the workers is absolutely fundamental, and we can't afford to let benign neglect, as it were, look after that. The numbers are huge, they are in the presentation, and so I'm very proud that Niti Aayog has demonstrated the value of partnership with our intellectual colleagues, with states, etc., in producing something within 4 months of the budget announcement. I would encourage my colleagues to take that up. Thank you.